Hi everybody, welcome to the UEA's Nursing Podcast. My name's Joe Ellis-Gage and today we have a Meet the Lecturer episode with Julia. Hi Julia.
Hi.
So we're going to talk about your life and kind of career to get you to what you do now. But before we start all that, just give us a really brief introduction. Who are you and what's your role?
Hi, I'm Julia Hubbard. I'm Professor of Clinical Health Education and I'm currently Head of Department for Midwifery Nursing and Apprenticeships, but I'm also the Director of International Partnerships, so quite a big work portfolio, but nurse by background and cardiac nurse, particularly through and through.
Okay, cool. Brilliant. So that kind of gives a bit of an idea of what you do now, because we'll have students that know you because you're their advisor or whatever, but we'll have lots of students who may not know who you are or not have been taught by you yet, so it's nice to have a bit of a feel for it. And I might ask you a little bit later on about what your current roles kind of involve.
Okay.
But let's start by going right back to the beginning. When did you want to become a nurse? When did you realise that was your thing?
I think I should probably say I had a passion for it, but that's not true. My parents were in the Air Force and we were stationed in Germany and came back to the UK with some A-levels, didn't know what to do. And I got a job at Elsham Cottage Hospital as a healthcare assistant, auxiliary nurse in those days.
Yeah, just to get a job?
Yeah, I met someone in the pub and they said, you know, there's jobs at the hospital. They're looking for young people who like working with people. So I said, yeah, okay. And I went for an interview and got the job.
Yeah.
And I was a healthcare assistant in care of the elderly in those days. And I absolutely loved it because working with the older population, they were fascinating. They had such interesting lives. And I thought, well, I really quite enjoy this. And it was meant to be temporary. Yeah. Just till I found another job. I ended up staying. And the charge nurse at the time said, had you ever thought about being a registered nurse? Which I hadn't.
You hadn't, yeah.
I just hadn't. And I thought, well, yeah, I really like this. Obviously, there's a big difference between being a healthcare assistant and a registered nurse. And I applied to the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital and got in. And the training was very different then. It was the late 70s, early 80s, which is quite a long time ago. And, never looked back, really. I loved all of my placements. And at the other end of the training, it was really hard to think, what do I want to do? So I went into neurology to start with. Okay. And I enjoyed that long-term relationship because we'd have patients who would come back over time as they deteriorated. And then one day, accidentally, I suppose, I got involved in a cardiac arrest. Yeah. And I thought, wow, that actually...
That's interesting.
That's really interesting. And I liked the way that the team worked together. And I thought I'd like to be part of a team that it was a successful resuscitation that has that sort of impact on someone's life. And it was just that moment. And I thought, okay. And I did a postgraduate cardiac course. Luckily enough, a job came up and I moved to cardiology from neurology.
So you kind of accidentally got into nursing because someone in the pub told you about a job. And then you accidentally got into cardiology because you happened to be at a cardiac arrest that worked. Yeah. And it just, that's how it kind of went.
Yeah, and I mean, and I loved every moment of it. And sometimes, I just thought, well, and so I worked in cardiology for 11 years, became quite senior in the role. And I think as you get older, you sort of become more aware of social policy and what's going on around you. And I felt as a senior nurse, maybe I couldn't influence, but as an educator, I could influence. So as it happened, as another fate, years ago we taught our specialities and the lecturer who taught cardiology was on maternity leave. Yeah. And the college was looking for people with degrees. And I'd missed that bit out, actually. So over that time, the hospital sponsored me to do a degree, which was unusual in the 80s. Yeah,
because you didn't need that to start with.
No, they obviously saw something in me, and I did it part-time for over 5 years to get a degree. And as nursing evolved and we went towards Project 2000 then, they were looking for clinical staff with degrees. So the school approached me and said, we hear you've got a degree in health studies, you're quite unusual. Would you like to do your teacher training and join the school? I said, thank you very much.
Why not?
Yeah, so I went off to Nottingham for a year and did my teacher training full time, because the NMC had very particular rules then about teacher training. And the lecturer, fortunate for me, didn't come back from mat leave. And I got the job, and so I moved into the school, and I taught cardiology. I taught the postgraduate course, and then in '93, lecturers moved from the health service into the university.
Yeah.
So I joined the UEA in '93. We moved over.
So up until '93, you were NHS employed effectively.
NHS employed as a teacher.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And then we all came over to the university. I hope this doesn't show as lack of ambition. I've always been in Norwich, but I think just my career has evolved.
If it works, yeah.
Norwich is a lovely place to live. And I've had a varied career, I think.
Yeah. It might feel to an outsider like all stayed there the whole time, but actually there's a lot going on. There's enough to keep you you busy. And that time when they said that you're going to move across, you can move across to work for the university rather than for the hospital, as it were.
Yeah.
Was that an easy choice to make, or were you worried about leaving the kind of comfort of the NHS?
I swings and roundabouts. In the early 90s, we still worked clinically 1 day a week, and the university allowed us to do that. So we still had contracts to work alongside our post-reg students. But as nursing evolved and the courses evolved, that went by the wayside a bit.
Yeah.
I think the transition, they made it easy for us because we still had our NHS privileges, which I've still got to this day. So I'm quite lucky.
It worked.
It worked all round. And I still link to cardiology across the region. So my link areas, people see me at the NNN or the Queen Elizabeth or the Paget.
Yeah.
And the staff know me because they were on my post-reg courses.
Yeah, so they've kind of, you've seen people through a number of years.
So we've all had a journey, if you know what I mean. That's been quite interesting.
Yeah. And then, so when you moved across to doing university work and you're primarily teaching the cardiology post-reg stuff, at what point did you start getting involved in pre-reg teaching? How did that kind of change and develop?
For Project 2000, we went to diploma level and then we went to degree level. We had to completely restructure our courses, so they needed someone to teach critical care in the undergraduate programme. I said, I think that's for me. I'd love to do that. And I did that for 5 or 6 years, and then I got the course director role as adult course director. That went well, I enjoyed that. And then I became director of pre-registration nursing. Yeah. And then I just kept thinking, what can I do now?
Yeah.
And I think one of the real things for the university, and I see it in all of us, is most of the posts are rotational. So you never have a dull day. So you can change your role.
Yeah.
And it's like starting a new job.
Yeah, but still in the same place.
But still in the same place. So that's what I've tried to do. I think I've just had last week my 30-year award. And I thought, actually, I still feel as motivated and as enthused as when I joined because of this ability to change direction every few years.
Yeah.
And the central point of that is the students. I'm just in awe of them, really. They're and also they keep you young. I think the conversations you have in class, and you're always learning because you're always looking at things from different points of view. Yeah,
and I guess that helps the movement of us as staff. Also helps the students because they haven't got someone who's been teaching the same module for 15 years. Yeah. There's always that development.
Yeah. So I still keep my hands into post-reg. I now teach Burns module twice a year post-reg. But I still keep my cardiac links. And a few years ago, I went off to Warwick University and did a business degree, an executive MBA, because I was at that point director of new business. And when I thought, how can we diversify as a university and make what we do interesting and attract a wider pool of students, and how can we work with the NHS in a different way? So there's so many opportunities to diversify.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have thought when you were told about an HCA job in the pub that you'd be then doing a business degree that links into all of that later on. It's so diverse, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And I think, now I'm seeing students who I was their parents' personal advisor, but also staff joining us, that I was their personal advisor as well. And it's a real journey to see them as a student, then as a clinician, and now as an academic. And it really is the world's your oyster, I think, as a nurse. It's very diverse. Yeah.
Well, we've spoken to a whole range of people of the lecturers, and we've had people talking about how they've gone down one particular route where they've gone, this is my passion, and others that have gone, well, I did this, then I went and worked in Africa for 9 months, and then I went and did this, and then I went and did this, and there's so much scope to move around. I'm the same as you. I came in, I'm the accidentally became a nurse kind of route in, which is quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then haven't really looked back because it's just been so much scope to move around. So moving on to your kind of current role, obviously, and as you said, your role's changed quite recently. Tell us what that involves. For the students, they kind of know what someone like me does because they see it a lot. Then they can't avoid me on lots of teaching, but they might not know what your job actually involves and what you do.
So as head of department, I'm responsible for all the programmes. So that's midwifery, nursing and apprenticeships. I'm responsible for staffing the courses, making sure we've got the right staff in the right place with the right skill mix, that staff are happy, that they like their jobs, that the curriculum, that we respond to the student voice. And I think that's a big part of my role, making sure that the students enjoy their programme and we deliver what the NMC want us to and what our NHS partners want us to. So it's a big role, and we're currently looking at our curricula, because every year we gather student feedback. We love to have that, and it informs what we do. So, that mainly curriculum management, staff management, and I hate to use this word, horizon gazing, but looking now, we've got the NHS workforce plan. That's been fantastic. So we sort of know, we've never known for a long time what the government really want, but we know probably, where they want the education to go for the next few years. So we can plan accordingly. So it's very exciting.
So you kind of, as well as overseeing all of us and all the students kind of keeping it going, it's that developing and changing and moving forwards bit, because I guess no 1 year of the course is ever truly repeated in exactly the same way, never, because we always develop and change. And
as the NHS changes, we need to change. And I think we're really good at that here. We're really listen to the student voice, and are open to feedback, which makes us, good place to be, really.
And then tell us about the international role of yours.
Yes, so that's that came off the back of being the director of new business. I'd started to work internationally and develop bespoke education, and we'd started to develop many international partners with a view to having a global footprint and, our UEA students going out into the world, because nursing, we all have the same problems, and unfortunately a little pandemic got in the way, and so we had to pause that. But just recently we've had our first electives post-pandemic, that went really well. And I think it's enriched the students' courses because they value the NHS for sure when they come back.
When they've seen the other the other areas that might be different.
And they get the social policy agenda and the importance of politics and how to protect the NHS, which they'd never maybe appreciated, without getting too political about it. But also culturally they get exposed to different nursing practices and think, well, why don't we do that? So there were some really good examples. So our partners are now ready as well. They're in the same position post-COVID. And so we're getting to a point where we're starting slowly with students first and staff first out across the globe.
Yeah.
To enrich what we teach as teachers, but also for students to bring back to the NHS that cultural competence. And then that will blossom into joint research projects. And we've already got some, potentials with children and Thailand exploring different work practices with autism. So I think you need to make those links because we're all struggling with the same health conditions. Different causes, but then how do we solve them? So that's been really exciting and a real privilege. I think I don't even really consider that as a job. I think it's such opens your mind. I think to new experiences.
Yeah, and it's mutually beneficial for
both
sides.
For the students, for us as academics, for the university, and for the patients at the end point, which is why we're all here for the service users. They will benefit from this cultural exposure. On many levels, the students, when it came back recently, thinking about religious nuances and even facial expressions, gestures, non-verbal communication. And you can't teach that in the class. Yeah. It has to be experienced. And that was marvellous to witness,
Yeah, good. Yeah, we're going to get them to come and do a chat with me. Some of them have offered to come and tell us about their experience.
Good.
Yeah. And then hopefully in the next year we'll have people who've been off to other places and they can come and chat about that as well and tell us more. Yeah. Good.
So as well as that, I think it's developing international research links.
Yeah, it's really important.
It's really important.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you very much. I think we've kind of found out quite a lot about you that we may not have already known before. Of gone from how you got into it through to your career and your interest in cardiology, and then through to kind of your roles now. And if you've got students who are being taught by you, or you're their advisor, or marking their work, they might have watched this and then know a little bit more about you. So,
I hope so. But I feel free to come and chat, really. And
we're all approachable.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for watching this episode. If you liked it, please hit the like button, subscribe, and you'll get alerts when we've got new interviews coming out, and add any comments below and we can answer any questions you may have. And please browse the channel for any other videos that may take your interest. So thanks very much, and thanks, Julia.
Thank you.
Cool.